Okay, Glean, you have launched the Work AI Institute, and the idea is to focus on what actually delivers results with AI at work. I guess the first question would be, why was it important to create a dedicated research body rather than maybe just relying on, product-led insights alone?
Sure. So we know that there's so much complexity associated with AI change. And a lot of what we're seeing across the board, the failures that are happening in terms of pilots failing or falling short of expectations, so much more due to the human factors than the technology factors. Absolutely, you need strong technological infrastructure and a strong technology platform. But leaders need to think very carefully about the change management associated with it. And because this is such a transformative force within our organizations, we need to think about it as well across many different dimensions. It's not just the technical aspect, it's not just the psychological aspect, there are behavioral aspects, there's aspects of leadership and roles. How do we think about evolving our organizational design and org charts? And so what we've done with the AI Institute is we've brought together eight of the leading experts, academic professors who have spent most of their careers studying some combination of work, technology, and organizational change. And what's unique and exciting is they all come from slightly different disciplines. So some are very much focused on the behavioral aspects, some more on the psychological aspects. And we think this multi-method, multi-discipline research approach is what's going to be needed in order for us to start to develop insights that actually help leaders and decision makers move forward and thinking about this change now in the future as well.
Okay, and you've already produced, I think, your first publication, the AI Transformation 100, and that distills lessons from organizations that are already scaled AI, I think. So were there any particular surprises about what is working and maybe also what isn't, or was it pretty much as you expected?
So the impetus behind the report was we wanted to go beyond the hype and also go beyond the disappointment. There are a strong narrative right now in terms of just how many pilots and POCs are failing. And I think what surprised us was no one has it figured out. And these leaders that are doing well in terms of implementing AI across their organization, starting to see those real business results, they'll be the first ones to tell you that they don't have it figured out. But these leaders, above all else, are leaning in with curiosity. They're recognizing that there are these fundamental tensions at play, between centralization and decentralization, between moving fast and moving slow, top-down change versus bottom-up change. And they're very intentionally thinking about how do I avoid going too far to any one side and constantly adopting that curiosity to identify the sweet spot for the moment. And I think the fact that they're being so intentional and the success that they're seeing was surprising, especially when you juxtapose it with, the narrative around, on the one hand, a lot of hype, and on the other hand, a lot of disappointment.
Okay, and I think one of the key messages you've found so far is that AI amplifies whatever it touches. How do organizations therefore assess whether their processes are ready for AI before automating them? Is it easy to work out whether they are or not, or is it a bit of a guessing game?
It's a multifaceted activity in the sense of what we saw and what we knew going into the report is AI amplifies processes, good or bad. What we didn't expect to uncover necessarily was that's also true for aspects of our culture. And so first, absolutely, organizations and leaders and department heads need to have a strong sense of what are the workflows that matter most within our specific functions. What we uncovered in the report is, process mapping is really important. Journey mapping also matters in terms of what is that outside in view, if we're talking about a process that touches customers, touches clients, also understanding what is their experience with the workflow, because often it's not exactly what we think when we map out a process. And so, not just process mapping, journey mapping is important. But besides the process aspect, there is a need right now for leaders to, in a grounded way, assess what is our culture, what is our risk tolerance, how do we think about KPIs and metrics, do we have a psychologically safe environment? And we know that all of those things are going to influence how employees are adopting and implementing the technology as well. And so process mapping is an essential part, but there's all of this other stuff that relates to how AI is going to be adopted by employees for better or worse.
Okay, and the research warns against automating the soul out of work. And I guess therefore the question would be how can companies strike the balance? Because clearly there are, major benefits of automating. So you want the efficiency gains of automation, but you want to preserve human judgment and creativity. Is it again, how easy is it to get that balance right?
It's hard. It's hard. And there's a whole section in the report on the division of labor, right? What does the division of labor look like between humans and AI? What I think has become clear in our last few months of doing this work is it differs workflow by workflow, department by department, especially when we think about purely or predominantly creative crafts. We know that automating too early can start to lessen that sense of ownership and autonomy over the process in a way that can negatively have downstream effects. And I think that was what was most surprising when we think about this automation, where often we can use AI to overcome what's sometimes called the blank page effect. And that can be a very healthy use of AI in many cases. If you're, for example, brainstorming, we know there's also some initial research to show that if you're in a brainstorm session where you're just needing to iterate and ideate on a given idea, then bringing an AI in to play a devil's advocate role can be effective. But for purely creative pursuits where, we spoke to someone who is a film writer or a book writer, if you automate too early, what we see is you're automating away some of this wrestling with the tension in the creative process in a way that employees are no longer feeling as strong a sense of ownership over their ideas. And we talked to one of our colleagues, Perry Claiborne at Stanford, who runs a student class where essentially the students go through the class and pitch business ideas to a group of investors. And what he's noticed in that class is a significant change in terms of how the students are talking about the ideas that they generate in the class, a shift from previously pre-AI talking about my idea, my business plan, to the idea, the business plan. And once people start to poke holes in the idea, the students are no longer as committed as they once previously were to sticking with that idea, persevering, pushing back. And so we need to be conscious, and often a first step is to ask employees. What we found through the report is there's not enough of that feedback collection from employees. The metrics around this transformation are so important, and taking time to, as you do your pulse surveys, ask employees, how is this technology impacting your work, your sense of meaning at work, your sense of purpose at work? Are there things that we've automated that you would prefer not to automate? And there's a study we point to in particular in the report that shows that a significant number of AI startups right now are automating aspects of work that employees would prefer to keep human. And I think we need to remember that just because we can automate something doesn't mean we should.
Again, leadership behavior is highlighted as a major factor in successful AI adoption. And you mentioned, I think, earlier on in the conversation about the curiosity
Mhm.
factor. But other than that, what role should the executives play day to day to make AI part of the organizational culture rather than maybe just a sort of, another project, if you like.
I think you've articulated it so well. It absolutely needs to be part of the day-to-day work for the executive. And it seems trivial, but we heard multiple accounts of CEOs turning around their computer screen and showing employees, showing their direct reports, specifically how they're using AI in their day-to-day work. And that type of, demonstration, we're not just talking about AI, we're not just issuing mandates and memos, we're embedding it in our day-to-day work as leaders. We know employees are watching very carefully what leaders do right now in terms of not just how they're using the technology, but what they're saying about the technology and whether those two things line up. And they're looking for guidance in terms of how safe is this technology? How do I learn how to do it? Use it, embed it in my work. And leadership is such an important factor in helping them rationalize and grok the nature of this technology. Now, what we also saw in the report is the importance of balancing that top-down leadership with bottom-up change. So absolutely, it's not enough for just the leaders to say, use AI, I'm using AI. There needs to be embedded experts in specific functional groups where employees can look to someone beside them and say, hey, you look like me, you work like me, this is how you're using the technology. I'm going to use it in this way as well, or this is going to inspire me to use it in a certain way as well.
And you place strong emphasis on enterprise context, things like memory, graphs, connectors, I think, and governance. Why is context so critical for AI to move, particularly from experimentation into real operational impact?
It's the key unlock, and it's absolutely essential. We're seeing, a lot of struggle with AI that works in the context of work. We know our organizations are enormously complex. It's impossible to truly have context into how we work, how we like to work, how our teams like to work, what workflows we do day to day. And having an AI that understands that context then unlocks a whole host of different benefits. Glean as a platform started in enterprise search. And once you have a powerful enterprise search engine powered by AI, that enables you to confidently find information within the organization. We see so many hours each week wasted by employees trying to search for information. And so that's sort of, the foundational level. But then once you have an AI that understands, an AI platform that understands workflows and teams and even how you work as an individual, it can then start to advise you in a really concrete way. It knows enough about you to be able to suggest the next best action. It has enough insight to nudge you when something is off track. And then when you think about agents as well, we're seeing a lack of adoption for agents in general in the industry because it's very difficult to understand end to end, as we've talked about the importance of process mapping, journey mapping, how to deploy agents within our organizations. And once an AI system and platform understands that context, it can not only help you decide what are those workflows that should be automated with AI, but also it moves us into the world of autonomous agents where you can confidently start to rely more and more on agents for critical work tasks. And again, always with the human in the loop and making those judgment calls, but agents become much more possible when you have a strong context layer.
Okay, and governance and trust are, I think it's fair to say, recurring concerns with enterprise AI. I'm wondering, there are features like agent alignment, permissions, and sensitivity labels, for example. How do those help organizations scale AI safely, which is, I say, is obviously an important focus for organizations?
The governance is critical, and I think right now organizations need to think very carefully about their governance strategy, especially around agents and making sure that that is in place. What we saw in the past is organizations relied, you know, quite heavily on their internal operations to do a lot of this governance across technologies. It's absolutely essential for the AI vendors to take that ownership as well and invest from day one in a strong governance layer, as we've done at Glean, and ensure that, the onus isn't entirely on the customer, on the client, to ensure these governance principles, these permissioning principles are in place. And it needs to be a non-negotiable in all of our AI strategies.
Okay, and I think we've already mentioned, but if I can come back to the fact that the Work AI Institute, you blend academic research with real world enterprise data. In terms of the combination, just how important is that? You mentioned, the AI hype and then, the reality of guiding better decision making. So how important is it to combine the sort of academic research and, the real world enterprise data?
It's crucial, and I truly believe it's the only way we're going to get this moment right. There's so much hype right now where we're seeing a lot of decision making. We saw it in the report too. A lot of decision making that is based on gut and impulse and intuition. And executives and decision makers are hungry for more evidence-based insights into how do they navigate this change for themselves and for the organization. And academic research is what enables that, right? We know a lot about technology change. We know a lot about what is effective in terms of technology that is being adopted in organizations. And increasingly, that research is focused on AI from the academic experts. The gap has always been the translation layer. So it's never been a lack of desire for more evidence, more research, more rigorous research. It's always been that we struggle for various reasons, incentives being one of them, to translate academic theory and research into practice and digestible insights that people can use today or tomorrow. And so that's the premise of the Work AI Institute, bringing together these two quite traditionally separate domains and bringing them together in a way that I hope has a lot of positive impact in terms of us being able to provide guidance and playbooks and frameworks for executives who are in the throes of implementing this technology.
Okay, in terms of that implementation, I think it's fair to say that a lot of organizations struggle just with embedding AI into everyday workflows. Are there any particular practical steps business can take to ensure AI becomes, I guess, part of a how work gets done culture as opposed to, just another tool that, might be seen as useful on the odd occasion?
There are so many strategies, and I think we outlined several of them in the report. One is, start with the drudgery, start with the stuff that employees don't like to do. It's monotonous, it's repetitive. And so one of these 100 ideas is around what we call drudgery czars. Assign someone in each function, ideally, who is responsible for identifying those routine, repetitive workflows that often do not bring employees any joy. Often that's a great plant for the AI. Metrics are critical right now. What we see is organizations are taking various different approaches to metrics. We've seen everything from measuring AI adoption and success by how many times people click the tool to very thoughtful metrics in terms of real business outcomes. And that's what we see lead to more success is the more we can anchor our measurement systems around the technology in our existing KPIs and business objectives, the more that we're going to be incentivized and encouraged to ensure the technology is helping, move the business forward and not just another technology sitting on the side as well. Collecting feedback from employees as well is very important. But I think what we see now is an over-indexing on treating this technology as something that happens outside the flow of work. We just need to implement the technology to implement it. And no, the purpose of this technology, the magic of this technology is to fundamentally improve and in the best cases help us rewire our existing business processes with the end objective of helping us better achieve those top line and bottom line goals, not just the bottom line goals, but fundamentally better work, better customer experience, and better employee experience as well.
And maybe just finally looking slightly ahead, I guess, I mean, clearly different organizations are at different places on their journey, but there is already, a move from AI assistants to autonomous agents. And as that happens more and more, how do you see the role of, I guess, the people, the processes, and even organizational design evolving over the next few years as, agentic AI, I guess, becomes the main way of delivering AI within the enterprise?
I see everything, all of those dimensions, people, processes, technology, structure, all of those have the potential for significant transformation. I think we need to remember that this is a human-led change and human-dependent change. And so it's not yet clear to me that we're going to see significant transformation in many organizations over the next, year, 2 years as we move forward into more of the autonomous agents or agents in general, agentic AI. That said, for the organizations that are being intentional, I expect all of those dimensions to change significantly. So when we think about technology, organizations are going to have that horizontal AI platform where employees are not forced to go to 5 or 10 different AI tools to get through their day. There's integrations such that you have one window to your AI tools and you're able to work through the day. The technology is operating in the background. We know that the best technology is largely invisible. Sometimes it's called calm technology, right? It works so well that we start to forget it's even there. And that's the ultimate, you know, North Star of this technology is it works so well that it's helping us automate workflows in ways we don't, consciously recognize day to day and enables us as humans to focus on the uniquely human workflows and tasks, inspiring our team, creativity, brainstorming. From a organizational design structure, we're going to start to see changes as well. I expect we're going to see very interesting, and we already are. We talk about it in the report, merging of different departments. HR and IT are two in particular, where we're seeing increasingly that recognition of the two groups needing to come together. The technical lens, we talked about governance, security, paired with this deeply human lens that HR brings. And then I think another important shift we are going to see pretty quickly is everyone being a manager of agents. And that requires, not just technical skills, but also new human skills in terms of we see certain people are more likely to adopt AI based on how they've worked in the past. We're going to see more and more a separation between the people who are skilled and adept at managing a fleet of agents versus not. And as leaders within the organization, it's important that you bring your employees on this shift, not just implementing agents, but also implementing some of the key, leadership fundamentals that we know are going to be at play when we think about managing a new digital workforce and everyone being a manager of agents.
Yeah, it's been great to chat, and thank you so much for sharing some brilliant insights because I know it's a topic that everyone is wrestling with, and you've given us a lot of great insights and clarity as to the ways in which AI can, be a force for good. Because I know obviously a lot of people for understandably sort of nervous about it, but you've given a lot of reassurance. So, Rebecca, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I've enjoyed the conversation.